40k loves its big, stompy robots. From the lowliest dreadnought to the most insane Forge World Titan kits, walking war machines are the set-piece models of almost every collection, and Knight Titans are some of the most iconic. With almost as many patterns as the god engines of the Legio Titanicus, and a glorious history rivaling the Knights of Old Terra, this is every single Knight Titan. Knights may look like holy engines of war these days, but they started as construction equipment used to gather resources and defend settlers during humanity's first push into the stars. When these worlds were cut off completely during the Age of Strife, the pilots of these machines became protectors, then warlords, then nobility. Unlike larger titans, knights are piloted by one person, creating a culture of feudal heroism, barons and kings in walking tanks that fight in loose groups called a lance. Most knight houses sided with Terra or Mars after reunification, and that led to several different variations on existing patterns, with even more coming about as a consequence of the Horus Heresy and knights falling to chaos. The Questoris pattern is the most common type of knight in the galaxy, and it's been that way since the days of the Horus Heresy. Built to be versatile, the Questoris was easy to produce and easy to modify, making it the go-to chassis for knight houses across the Imperium. Its popularity meant that even trader knights kept using them long after the heresy ended. Thanks to this flexibility, many Questoris pattern knights are still in use today. Some march with their original heresy-era loadouts, while others have been heavily refitted with modern war gear, customized to suit the needs of their house or the battlefield. The Knight Crusader is the long-range fire support variant of the Questoris pattern, built to cut down infantry and hammer enemy lines from afar. Its signature loadout includes the Avenger Gatling Cannon, a brutally efficient weapon designed to mow down infantry or light vehicles, and either a thermal cannon for tank busting or a battle cannon for a long-range punch. This setup makes the Crusader an ideal anchor point for a Knight Lance. While it lacks the melee prowess of its siblings, its firepower more than makes up for it, allowing it to provide covering fire and suppress targets so that the other knights can charge in. If needed, the Crusader can still handle itself in a fight, but its true strength lies in dominating the battlefield from a superior vantage point. In contrast to the Crusader, the Imperial Knight Defender belongs closer to the action. Equipped with a Void Shield generator on top of its carapace instead of the usual support weapon, the Defender is able to extend its shield to protect allied infantry and even other knights. To complement that, this Questoris variant makes use of the incredibly powerful Conversion Beam Obliterator and Plasma Executor, both of which are turned to quickly obliterate armored and infantry threats. The Knight Errant is a versatile close combat variant of the Questoris pattern widely used by Imperial forces who need heavy frontline support. It's equipped with a Reaper Chainsword or a hefty Thunderstrike gauntlet for melee combat, paired with a thermal cannon capable of reducing bunkers and armor to slag. This balance of ranged and melee power makes the Errant a reliable workhorse in any assault and is often requested by Imperial commanders for breaking enemy lines. After all, what better way to take command of a skirmish than to send in a 6-story walker swinging a chainsword the size of a bus? And the Knight Gallant takes that melee focus even further, abandoning ranged weapons entirely. Armed with both a Reaper Chainsword and Thunderstrike Gauntlet, the Gallant charges into battle with terrifying speed for its size. Without the weight of a main gun, it can push its frame to the limit, relying on its carapace and ion shielding to survive long enough to close the distance. Gallants are not subtle, they're built to crash into enemy ranks and tear them apart. The Knight Warden is built for crowd control. Equipped with an Avenger Gatling cannon and a heavy flamer, it specializes in mowing down infantry and shredding light vehicles before they can get close. For anything that does, the Warden carries either a Reaper Chainsword or Thunderstrike Gauntlet, keeping it deadly in close quarters. Many Wardens also swap the typical Icarus autocannon array for heavy missile launchers on their carapace, most often a Storm Spear rocket pod or Iron Storm missile pod, giving them a powerful answer to distant threats. Heavily armed and well-armored, the Warden thrives in the heart of battle, holding off entire armies while the rest of the line catches up. The Knight Paladin is often seen as the ideal Questoris class knight, versatile, reliable, and perfectly balanced between offense and defense. It's usually armed with a Reaper Chainsword for close combat and a rapid-fire battle cannon for striking at range, giving it the tools to handle almost any battlefield threat. What sets the Paladin apart isn't just its weapons, but its agility. Faster than most Titans and fully protected by ion shielding, it can move swiftly across rough terrain and still hold the line under heavy fire. The Knight Preceptor is a symbol of chivalric tradition among the Questoris class, often piloted by arms masters, veteran nobles whose job is to train the next generation of knights. Preceptors lead by example, carrying their house's honor in the heart of battle. Built for close-range combat, the Preceptor is equipped with a Thunder Gauntlet and the rare Las Impulsor, a devastating energy weapon capable of reducing enemy fortifications to rubble or slicing the legs off an enemy Titan. Though the Las Impulsor lacks long reach, it excels in punishing foes at a short range, exactly where a Knight Preceptor prefers to be. While most Questoris pattern knights serve the Imperium at large, a few rare variants, like the Megera, are reserved for the noble houses allied with the Adeptus Mechanicus. The Megera is a breacher unit built for tearing through hardened defenses and outlasting punishing assaults. Outfitted with sacred relics and arcane machine systems, it can self-repair mid-battle and has reinforced ion shielding. Combined, these features make the Megera one of the most durable Knight Titans in existence, but that comes at a cost. When the armor takes sustained damage, the resulting radiation leakage can poison the noble piloting it. As a result, few houses field the Megera often, no matter how effective it is on the front lines. Like the Megera, the Knight Styrax is a Mechanicus-exclusive variant of the Questoris pattern, rarely seen outside the Forge Worlds. Built as a reaper of infantry and light vehicles, the Styrax mounts both a gravitation gun and a twin-linked rad cleanser for support weapons. However, its primary weaponry is more heavy-duty, with a Volkite Kiora vial to crack energy shields and the brutal Hecaton Siege Claw to take care of the rest. Together, these weapons make it a walking executioner, able to cut down entire regiments and shred through armor with ease. But despite its power, the Styrax has a dark reputation. Many knight houses regard it as cursed, its machine spirit said to thirst for blood, a remnant of lost days from the Great Crusade. The Adeptus Mechanicus, however, sees no issue with such aggression. To them, the Styrax is simply efficient. But we're not done there, folks. Because the Questoris is such a solid knight pattern, even the trader houses still use several variants. Chaos Knights are understandably very similar to their loyalist counterparts, with the notable exception being a lack of limitations on their war gear from the traditionalist Martian priesthood, and of course the horrific yet powerful gifts given to them by their exposure to chaos. Because of this, the most stark difference between Imperial and Trader Titans is mostly down to their machine spirits and the warped powers the Chaos-aligned Knights receive. To show what we mean, let's start with the Despoiler. Based on the Questoris, the Knight Despoiler can equip a wide range of primary and support weaponry. Thermal cannons for melting enemy armor, battle cannons for laying down ranged bombardment, Gatling cannons to sweep infantry aside, and smaller melta-guns, flamers, heavy stubbers, autocannons, and rocket and missile pods to deal with closer threats and flying targets. The Despoiler can even equip the gigantic Reaper Chainsword and the Warp Strike Claw, the trader version of the Thunderstrike Gauntlet. And to top this avalanche of weaponry off, the Despoiler can double up on any of them or mix and match as they choose. This versatility is something that their Imperial cousins are restricted from, and it makes the Despoiler a truly chaotic threat on the battlefield. But like we said, the most dangerous threat here is the corrupting powers granted to the twisted pilots of these machines, who have slowly melded with their walkers over time, abandoning any sense of honor in favor of personal glory. The Rampager is a great example of how Chaos Knights are really defined by their corruption rather than their weapons. The Questoris variant is armed only with a Warp Strike Claw and a Reaper Chainsword. Its only ranged weapon is a heavy stubber typically mounted under its shoulder armor to suppress any infantry that attempt to swarm it. This loadout marks the Rampager as a melee-focused vehicle, but thanks to Chaos, that's very much an understatement. Rampagers and their pilots are so insane and bloodthirsty that they often have to be restrained between drops and have to be deployed from these cages directly onto the battlefield in case they destroy their allies before the fight can even start. The Desecrator is the closest we might come to seeing a command vehicle in the Trader forces. Armed with a melee option on one arm, either a Chainsword or Warp Strike Claw as usual, and an Ancient Laser Destructor on the other, the Desecrator is equipped for mid to close range duels with enemy titans, tanks, or monstrous creatures. And since Chaos is all about leading through strength, Desecrators are often piloted by strong-willed tyrants who use the power of their walkers to gather followers who accept their commands without question, or else. The Knight Ruinator seeks to destroy everything in its path. Being a perfect short-range brawler, the Ruinator is a terror on the battlefield, hunting down its targets with murderous focus before butchering its victims with the Fellbore, a repurposed industrial drill. And should anyone think themselves safe in cover or heavy armor, the Ruinator can make use of its Terror Pulse missile launchers and Dark Flame Lance, both of which are more than capable of cracking emplacements and dealing with heavy infantry like Space Marines. So it shouldn't be surprising to learn that the Ruinator has earned itself a reputation as an utterly merciless headhunter. The Abominant lives up to its name as the most corrupted Questoris variant on our list. Its only mundane armaments are a Volkite Combustor and a Bale Mace, both of which are designed to sweep through enemy opponents in the most painful way possible. Volkite weapons are ancient designs that fire rays of energy to disintegrate their targets, and the Combustor can do that at a fairly decent range. But more often than not, an Abominant will swap its more conventional Bale Mace for an Electro Scourge, a massive tentacled whip sheathed in energy like a smaller power weapon. This whip is great for clearing huge areas of enemy infantry and hints at the Knight's true nature. The Abominant channels raw warp energy, radiating a pulsing aura of corruption that mutates everything it touches. Flesh bloats and twists, steel rusts and buckles, and even machine spirits recoil in terror. This is the same dark power that reshaped the Abominant itself, spreading outward in waves to remake the battlefield in the image of chaos. Not every Knight pilot goes to battle in a towering Questoris chassis. The culture of the knightly houses is centered around a rigid caste system, so even if you are a talented pilot, you might be from a less prestigious house, or a bastard child of a more famous noble, or even a low-born commoner that has been marked for greater service. In those instances, the pilot is declared a bondsman and given an Armiger pattern, the smallest class of Night Walkers. Armigers are faster, lighter, and more expendable, right down to their decisions, as their Helm Mechanicum is linked to a larger Knight's Throne Mechanicum, which can override their thoughts in the worst example of micromanagement we've ever seen. Typically, Armigers operate in groups to scout enemy lines, protect the flanks of their Bond Liege, or strike at vulnerable targets. Chaos Warbands use similar machines known as War Dogs, which are corrupted variants that fill the same battlefield role. In either case, the Armiger chassis is often just as capable in its role as a larger knight, and is equipped with two main weapons on their arm mounts and a support weapon, autocannons, heavy stubbers, and missile launchers, mounted on its upper carapace armor to handle more mobile threats. The Armiger Warglaive is the most common close combat variant, armed with an armor-cracking melta weapon called the Thermal Spear and a Reaper chain cleaver for brutal close-range strikes. Its traitor counterpart, the Stalker, fills the same role and is often found leading groups of other war dogs. The Stalker is typically armed with its own anti-armor Demon Breath Spear and a Chain Talon, but these can be swapped out for an Avenger Chain Cannon and a Slaughter Claw, making the Stalker more fitted to anti-infantry roles. For fire support, the Armiger Helverin mounts twin autocannons, laying down suppressive fire against infantry and light vehicles. Chaos Warbands field the War Dog Executioner, which is a nearly identical platform with a pair of autocannons and the option of using a meltagun on its support mount. The Traitor Forces also have the Brigand, which is a fire support variant armed for much closer range, specifically with a Demon Breath Spear and an Avenger Chain Cannon. Then there's the Moirax pattern, a Mechanicum specialty that trades standard loadouts for exotic weapons like Rad Cleansers, Gravitation Pulsars, Lightning Locks, and Volkite View Glares. Designed for specialist threats, the Moirax has no chaos equivalent, though some war dogs field strange and unstable weapons, likely descended from this pattern. As with most Mechanicum designs, the pilot can use their exotic weapon systems at the cost of their own safety. The Lightning Lock we mentioned earlier taps directly into the Moirax's own reactor core to shoot electromagnetic blasts. Any rad weaponry bathes an immediate area in dangerous radiation, and of course, even the custom flare shield that replaces the standard ion shielding is experimental. No part of the Moirax is safe for the enemy or the pilot. And Chaos is not without its own unique variants. The Carnivore is a close combat terror stripped of ranged weapons and built to charge headlong into battle, hacking enemies apart with a combination of Chain Talons and Slaughter Claws. The Huntsman is built along a similar close-range mentality with a demon breath spear and a chain talon, perfect for harassing lighter units and hunting enemy armor. The Cerastus pattern knight was built during the Age of Strife and deployed heavily in the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy. Compared to the Questoris, the Cerastus was faster and taller, built for rapid strikes and hostile environments. Its lighter frame, modular weapons, and advanced stabilizers made it ideal for conquering newly discovered worlds where unknown terrain and sudden resistance were constant threats. Designed as the vanguard of Imperial expansion, the Cerastus brought speed and adaptability to the battlefield, qualities that made it essential to humanity's early wars of unification. The Knight Acheron was built for fast strikes against enemy infantry and light vehicles. Designed to hunt down anything too quick for heavier knights to catch, armed with a brutal Reaper chain fist and the devastating Acheron flame cannon, it tears through enemy lines in a storm of fire and steel, reducing infantry and fortifications to molten ruin. But the Acheron is rare, even by Cerastus standards. Its complex frame and aggressive machine spirit make it difficult to build and harder to master. Many pilots take the Acheron out of duty, not desire, knowing full well that wrestling with its bloodthirsty machine spirit could easily lead to madness. The Knight Castigator is built for clearing infantry and light vehicles, cutting down enemy hordes before they can overrun the battle line. Its primary weapons are the Tempest Warblade, a massive power sword designed for wide sweeping strikes, and the Castigator Bolt Cannon, a rapid-fire weapon that tears through targets in seconds. But with that much firepower, ammo runs dry fast, and pilots of the Castigator need the experience to pace their shots and pick their targets wisely, making this variant a favorite for veteran knights who can balance aggression with control. The Knight Lancer is the most celebrated of the Cerastus pattern, fast, aggressive, and built for the charge. Its iconic loadout pairs the power of a Cerastus shock lance with the protection of an ion gauntlet shield, allowing it to break enemy lines before they can react, with the added benefit of being the most medieval-looking knight in the entire list. It takes a special kind of pilot to master the Lancer's style. Its loadout makes it an excellent duelist, and so glory-hungry nobles seek it out. For them, the Lancer is not just a weapon, it's a stage on which to earn renown in the eyes of allies and rivals alike. The Knight Atropos is the rarest of the Cerastus pattern, built for a darker purpose. Where other knights fight for glory or conquest, the Atropos exists to erase forbidden things. Xenos relics, warp-tainted machines, and ancient horrors, the Atropos handles it all. Its targets are usually so dangerous that this knight is equipped with some of the most brutal weaponry available, like the Atropos Lascutter, a focused beam designed to slice through the toughest alien armor, and the Graviton Singularity Cannon, a weapon that crushes its targets under impossible gravitational forces. Everything about the Atropos is designed to obliterate its target, but hunting the unnatural comes at a price. The Atropos' machine spirit is notoriously aggressive, obsessively driven to seek out and destroy anything it deems a threat. Many pilots lose themselves to the machine's single-minded purpose, becoming more executioner than knight. The Dominus pattern is the largest and most heavily armed class of knight in Imperial service. Less a war machine, more a walking fortress. Where most knights focus on dueling or mobile strikes, a Dominus brings enough firepower to break entire battle lines. Nearly every surface of its frame is fitted with weaponry, carapace guns, shoulder-mounted missiles, and arm-mounted primary weapons capable of leveling city blocks. Unlike the more flexible Questoris or Cerastus patterns, the Dominus chassis trades a variety for overwhelming force. Thanks to the complexity of its design, there are fewer variants, but every Dominus that marches to war is a game-changer, piloted exclusively by high-ranking nobility and able to hold its ground against anything short of a full-sized Titan. The Knight Castellan is the iconic heavy gun platform of the Dominus pattern, built to annihilate enemy armor before it can even fire back. Its primary weapons are the Plasma Decimator and Volcano Lance, both designed to destroy super-heavy targets at extreme range. Backing these up are Siegebreaker cannons and Shieldbreaker missiles on the carapace mounts, and some supporting meltagun arrays in the shoulders, giving Castellans the tools to flatten infantry and crack fortifications with ease. Unlike other knights, the Castellan runs on a twin plasma core. This dual reactor setup powers its massive guns and fuels a rare defensive system, the ability to extend its ion shield outward, protecting nearby allies. Where the Castellan dominates at range, the Knight Valiant leads the charge. Built for close quarters destruction, the Valiant advances straight into the heart of battle. Its signature weapons are the Conflagration Cannon, a massive triple-barreled flamethrower designed to clear infantry and light armor in seconds, and the Thunder Coil Harpoon, a brutal weapon built to impale enemy tanks and drag them closer so that it can be shredded by the Knight's support weaponry, which are more cannons, missiles, and meltaguns, just like with the Castellan. The Dominus pattern is terrifying enough on its own, but when claimed by Chaos, it becomes something far worse. These corrupted machines are known as Knight Tyrants, walking engines of destruction, twisted by the warp and madness of their pilots. The Tyrant mounts the same terrifying arsenal as its loyalist kin: volcano lances, plasma decimators, cannons, missiles, and even its own take on the Valiant's harpoon. But just like with the earlier Questoris variants, lack of Mechanicus oversight means that a Tyrant can mount all of these weapons however it pleases, with at least one account of a Tyrant that swapped both its arm hardpoints out for a pair of colossal Reaper chainswords. And just like with other Chaos-tainted Knights, warp corruption fuses pilot and machine into one tormented whole. Over time, a Tyrant becomes less a knight and more of a monster, driven by a singular hunger to prove itself the strongest presence on the battlefield, even if nothing but rusted metal and shrieking flesh remains. The Acastus pattern is the largest and most powerful class of Imperial Knight, towering over the Cerastus chassis and rivaling a Warhound Titan in size. Developed by the Mechanicum during the Great Crusade, the Acastus was designed as a true siege engine. But for all its power, the Acastus is rare. Even the most ancient and well-supplied knight houses field only a handful because the effort and resources required to build one rival that of a small starship. In battle, though, they are worth every scrap of material. When an Acastus enters the field, it's a declaration of overwhelming force, a symbol of the Mechanicum's power. The most common variant of the Acastus pattern is the Porphyrion, a walking fortress bristling with long-range firepower. Its primary weapons are paired Magna las cannons, massive energy cannons capable of melting through the thickest armor at extreme distances. Backing these are a variety of carapace-mounted weapons, typically missile launchers, autocannons, or even radiation-spewing rad cleansers for close defense. Unlike other knights, the Porphyrion trades speed for raw endurance. Its void shielding and reinforced armor make it nearly untouchable by conventional weapons, and it was built to hold a firing position against overwhelming odds. Where other knights charge, the Porphyrion stands its ground, turning the battlefield into a killing zone through sheer volume of fire. Rare even in the Acastus pattern is the Knight Asterius, a war machine built not just for endurance, but for devastating firepower across multiple ranges. Instead of Magna las cannons, the Asterius mounts a pair of conversion beam cannons, ancient weapons that unleash concentrated energy blasts, growing more powerful the further they travel. Backing these is a Carachnos mortar battery mounted over its shoulders, lobbing explosive shells to bombard entrenched targets, and twin Volkite culverins for cutting through infantry with arcs of thermal energy. Like its sibling, the Asterius sacrifices mobility for raw destructive power, standing as a siege platform in its own right. The Asterius is rarely seen on the battlefield since its production requires ancient schematics and enormous resources, but when deployed, few enemy formations survive the storm of energy blasts and high explosive shells it can dish out. And that does it for every type of knight within 40k. For this video, we primarily focused on the suits and how they work rather than the deeper lore of their culture, so if you would like us to explore the free blades or hero knights like Canis Rex or the Obsidian Knight, let us know in the comments. And as always, while you're there, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Who knows, you might be chosen to pilot your very own walker, so long as you stay up to date with more lore.